welcome to week 8 of This Week in the Garden. It's been 8 weeks already, I can't believe it. But as you can see, the garden has changed quite a bit in 8 weeks. So today is Saturday, which is actually what I consider to be the end of the week, the gardening week. I haven't videoed all week, nope. Too many other things going on, and I'm just going to accept that sometimes I can't video during the week. Yeah, I've been very busy on other projects. So today I'm going to do sort of a combo video of, I'm going to show you what has happened during the week, what things have been done, and there are a bunch of things. And then I've got a few tasks today that I need to take care of, and I think I'm pretty much going to spend a good part of the day here in this garden, getting some things done, putting in a good day's work, and getting some things in ship shape. A lot of little tasks, little housekeeping tasks. Probably not a lot of weeding, although some. We've done some weeding, and but a lot of other tasks that I'll show you in a moment. But yeah, so let's get going and start ticking off these tasks and see how the garden's growing. I thought I was going to be able to get away with not having the head net on today, but because it's breezy. But at any little pause in the breeze, the black flies just descend. So I've got the dreaded head net back on. Anyway, the first task I want to take care of today is putting a little strip of tarp in between these two row covers. I have onions here in this row cover that has holes burned in it, and then over here will be lettuces with the next tray of lettuce that I plant will go into this row. I've got lettuces way at the end of the onion row, filling up the back end of this onion row. In between is a gap of soil, and I just yesterday went through and weeded it. It was pretty full of weeds. I don't want to have to do that again, so I'm going to put a little strip of tarp that I cut. It's actually like a 1 foot wide strip of tarp. Hang on, let me show you here. Little 1 foot strip wide of the silage tarp that I use in the garden. I cut these up some time ago, and I use them on the rows, the aisleways that have the irrigation hoses on them. That way I don't have to weed around the irrigation hose. It's a tremendous help, believe me. Years of weeding around irrigation hoses. Yeah, so I have one under this irrigation hose here, and so I'm just going to use a similar one in this gap. The only catch is I don't have the irrigation hose to weigh it down from the wind, and it's actually pretty breezy today, so it'll be kind of interesting to watch me unfurl this thing. So I'm going to have to use rock bags to hold it down. So there'll be a row of rock bags down this aisleway, but at this point I don't care aesthetically how it looks. I just want to keep the weeds from growing and save myself the labor. So let me get to work on unfurling this in the wind, hopefully section by section, so that it doesn't fly away in the wind here today. And yeah, get this task knocked off. Before I start unfurling this tarp, I laid out all the rock bags, or most of the rock bags that I'll need to hold the tarp down ahead of time, so that as I'm unfurling it, I can put a rock bag on top of it. The wind is pretty brisk today. Probably the wrong day to be laying out any sort of tarp, but here we are. So let's get stretching this tarp out. done. I realized after I put all the rock bags on sideways that I really needed them to go in the direction of the aisleway, because I'm going to be planting in this row, the lettuce row, and I don't want the rock bags hanging over the row. So anyway, this will save me hours of labor. Just a few minutes of moving rock bags and a tarp around will save me just, yeah, so much labor. Tarps are totally worth the investment. If you have any size vegetable garden that you manage, get yourself a silage tarp. These are from Farmer's Friend LLC. I'm not sponsored by them. I just use them and I love them. And I bought a 25 by 100 foot tarp. That's the size that I use the big tarps. And I cut one of them down into 4 foot wide strips to use for rows. And then I cut one of those 4 foot wide strips into 1 foot strips for aisleways. So totally worth the money and the effort. Saves hours and hours of weeding, trust me. All right, that task done. I'm gonna go over and check on the asparagus because I just saw something there that was a little bit troubling. So here's the asparagus row. And I just noticed, I don't know if this is gonna focus on it, if you can see that on the frond or not, but there's this little black caterpillar on the frond. That is an asparagus beetle larva. And there's a bunch of them on these fronds. Not too bad. Let's see if I can find another one. There's some back here. Again, I don't know if my camera's going to focus on that. So I'm going to go through and squeeze off a few of these, kill them. But what I may do later, once this wind dies down, hopefully today, if not today, then tomorrow, is come through with a spray of BT, which is targeted to caterpillars. So that'll take care of the problem, at least the initial wave of asparagus beetle larvae. Oh yeah, there's more here. If you can see that right there. That'll take care of the initial wave of larvae, and then we'll just have to keep an eye on them and make sure that it doesn't get to epidemic proportions. So, epic proportions. Why did I say epidemic? I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, that's something to add to the task list. My next task is to tackle this pollinator row. A couple of things I need to do. As you can see, we've got quite a few blooms coming along, but I need to start deadheading. So I'm going to go through and deadhead, anything that's gone over. The other thing is we had some storms the other day, and they knocked over a few of these flowers, all dirty with heavy rain. So I need to go through and stake a few of these that have flopped, like the spatula button. Oh, looks like a zinnia broke. Oh boy. Well, zinnia down. It's still alive though, so maybe I'll stake it even with the broken stem and see if it survives. You can see a few of them are staked already. This garden is very windy, so when they're young and their stems are thin, they can flop over pretty easily. So let me get to work on staking and deadheading this. Okay, finished the pollinator row. You can see I've staked a number of these flowers, and I've also gone through and deadheaded a lot of them because the stems had, bent over from being on the ground and wanted to take some weight off too. And the bachelor buttons, most of them, I took off a bunch of the tops. This one I just couldn't bear to cut these off. Look at how beautiful these are. I did cut a few. I'll just compost into the aisleway. This one seems to be fairly strong. I wanted to cut off some of the weight off the tops of these. Like this one's really tall. This is probably 3 feet tall at least. Take off some of the weight and allow the stems to thicken up a little bit before they get a big top of flowers. Plus, as you deadhead these, especially for things like cosmos, you create more side shoots, which leads to more flowers. So it's good to keep up on the deadheading early on in the season so that you create lots more side shoots and lots more flowers. And then usually, as usually happens later in the season, I fall behind in the deadheading, but I've set the flowers up to have lots and lots of blooms. So it's really windy today. Beautiful seashells, cosmos. Oh, they're just looking so pretty so far. Now this is like just the beginning of this row. In a month, this will just be incredibly covered with flowers and foliage. It'll look totally different. But it's off to a good start. It's another little seashells, cosmos. Sunflowers are looking really strong. The tithonias, thankfully, are finally taking off. They're looking really healthy. The heavy rain we just had certainly helped hydrate everything, as this row doesn't really get watered other than by rain. And these cupcake white cosmos are just beautiful. Alright, so that is the pollinator row task off the list. On to the next. One of the tasks that I promised myself I would do earlier this year that I usually end up forgetting about until it's too late is tying up the sugar snap peas. On one side of the fence they tend to lean right into them, but usually on one side, usually the west side for some reason, not sure why, maybe because they're growing toward the light, the western afternoon sun, but they tend to pull away a little bit from the fence, and once they reach a certain height, they flop over and bend the stem, which when they're fully loaded with sugar snap peas, can cut off the supply of, nutrients to the snap peas. So what I'm going to do is use this white nylon string, and I reuse these strings as long as I can. I cut them off at the end of the season and reuse them, the ones that have length, for the next season. So I try to reuse as much as I can. But what I'm going to do is just start, probably today I'll just do one. I'll start one string and kind of push these up against the fence so that they stay upright. And then as they grow, I will probably add a second just to keep them from flopping over. So let me get to that. I got them mostly tied in. There are a few here that keep popping out that I'll have to individually tie in. But as you can see, I've just run one strand along, about 18 inches up, all the way down. And that will just secure them from flopping over as they get taller. And then if we come back around, I decided to go ahead and put one on the other side as well. Get that one started. And then as these grow up another, foot or so, I'll put a second tier of twine to hold them to the fence. So hopefully that will keep them upright, especially once they're loaded with snap peas, which they usually are. Can't wait. They're looking great, actually. Down here, the snow peas are looking really nice, and they're upright this year because I put the nylon strings down here for them to grab on early. They're not quite to the bottom of the fence, which is right here. They're almost there, so they'll start clinging to the fence. And they won't get too much taller, maybe a little bit taller. So I probably won't, I don't know, we'll see how it goes. I might put a string down here on this post and run a string down the row to the next post to kind of pull them in. We'll see how they do. Alright, my husband wants to mow this pasture here, our June mowing of the pastures. And so he's going to be out here with the brush hog, and it's going to get very loud. So I'm going to just quickly go through what else is happening in the garden and give you an update. Here are the tomatoes. They're looking great. We've already got tomatoes forming. Beautiful tomatoes forming. Again, these are paste tomatoes. This is Blue Beach. They're looking so good. We were a little worried. And then these are the San Marzano, which are also forming some nice tomatoes already. I'm going to have to do a little work on these today to start thinning them out and tying them up to the fence a little more securely. I won't video that, but that's going to happen today. And then the cucumbers are looking great. They're not quite to the fence, almost. So let me swing down here, down to the end of the fence. What else? Well, the Beauregard sweet potatoes are looking great. They're really growing nicely, as are the squash, settling into their beds. Starting to see little buds possibly forming. So again, the Beauregard sweet potatoes are doing great. The Mahan, not so much. Really disappointed. I have one there and nothing until we get to here. So very disappointed this year. But that's the trick with gardening. Some years are good, some are challenging. But like I said before, we still have these 25 Beauregard sweet potatoes that will give us plenty this year. The potatoes have just taken off. These are the Yukon Golds. We need to hill these again. These have got to be almost 2 feet above the bed at this point. Look at how lush they look. And then these are the red Nordland. I have been seeing some Colorado potato beetles here on the red Nordland, not the Yukon Gold, which is interesting. And I've also noticed there's a difference between the foliage types. This seems to be more waxy, more leathery than the Yukon Gold, which are almost like tomato leaves, soft. So I wonder if that's the difference. For whatever reason, the Colorado potato beetles seem to like these more. I don't know. But it's only been a handful, so I'm not going to do anything about it other than just monitor and handpick as needed. All right, let's take a quick walk down the fruit rows. Oh, I wanted to show you Sue's garlic. Sue was over yesterday. We were admiring the garlic. It is starting to scape, so she's actually going to come by this weekend again and harvest the scapes and do all sorts of yummy things with the scapes. So the garlic is looking really good, and she's also going to weed. She has a sunflower in the middle of her garlic. And then this other variety down here, down at the end, there's another variety, and I don't know the names of the varieties, but these scapes are huge, and they're ready to be cut. All right, swinging over. My goji berries are looking a little sad. I still haven't decided what I'm going to do for trellising, but I'm thinking I need to get some trellising, some sort of staking to get these up off the ground. So got to give myself some time to think about that. Oh, actually this one's really not looking good. Oh, this is a black goji berry. What happened, bud? This looks like something ate the leaves. All right, we'll have to be monitoring those. Over to the fruit tree area. Still haven't done anything with this plum. Yep. But the pears and the apples are looking great. Look at these. Aren't these beautiful? Love it. All right, well, that went to heck pretty quickly. I ran out of battery in the middle of that last segment, and yeah, so I had to bring my camera in and charge it, and then my husband came home and started mowing the field, the pasture right next to the garden. So yeah, it's now much later in the afternoon, and I'm just going to continue on with my garden tour and pretend that nothing happened. But it is probably 3 hours later or so. The sun is over there in the west. So yeah, we'll continue on. All right, we were talking about pears before we got interrupted. So let's continue on and look at the apples. These are looking great. Yay. Only one here. But hey, I'll take it. It's first year. Actually, no, second year in here. Planted this last year. So, yeah. Anyway, many apples on that one. This is Liberty apple, so a lot of apples on this one. Very nice. Okay, moving on. Just going to swing over here. The elderberries are doing really well, growing up nicely. This is the one different variety, that's the pollinator. This is, what is this one? Samol. Yeah, so this is the pollinator. It's actually quite a bit taller than the others. They're all looking really nice. We have a very large sunflower that just grew up here, probably from a seed left over from last year. I'm gonna guess it's probably one of the mammoth variety, given its size already. Can't wait to see what it develops into. All right, let's go over to the other side of the garden. We've already looked at potatoes and peas. Here we go. Oh, peppers. Yeah, we've got a lot of peppers forming already. Look at that. So it'll still be probably a couple of months before these really start to ripen. Yeah, we've got, yay, lots of peppers coming on these. Cool. Yeah, the peppers are all looking great. So these are the fillet beans, French fillet beans, and our bush beans down there are looking great. We did sow a second batch over here. Actually, Sylvia sowed them for me, and they're just starting to come up. It'll dry today, but they're just starting to come up here. Oop, there's one right there. So yeah, those will start popping up soon, this week. But the other batches are looking great. And then these are the black turtle beans. Those are all looking really good. Yeah, okay. So let's see, what else did we get done this week? So the beans, a lot of weeding. You'll notice the aisleways are looking a bit cleaner. Still have a bunch of work to do, but you know, they're getting there. Brassicas, it's been a disappointment this year, actually. But I'm not giving up yet. This is the broccoli, and some of the plants are really starting to leaf up a bit. I think I've got the flea beetle situation under control, so I'm going to keep an eye on it, but the flea beetles definitely did their damage this year. So a bunch of broccoli. I do have some more starts in the greenhouse. Might have a few more broccolis. They tend to be earlier season crops, so I tend not to want to sow them. Oops, I don't know why my camera focused there. I don't want to sow them too late. These are cauliflowers, and again, they're just now starting to kind of kick in. Bunch of flea beetle damage, but I think we're still going to manage to get some different varieties of cauliflower this year, so I'm excited about that. Lost a few, and I do have a few newer broccoli plants in here. Now that the flea beetles aren't eating them alive, hopefully they will bounce back. As you can see, kind of empty back here. That was mostly cabbages, and they did not do well. So more cabbages sown in the greenhouse, and they will be coming out hopefully in the next probably 2 weeks, I think. Give them another couple of weeks to size up a bit. Kale looking great. This is actually a second planting of kale that I did just kind of as insurance. And then I'll do another planting of kale later in the summer for fall. But the main planting of kale, we'll skip over, there's some nice cabbages here. This is, I believe this is Tiara, a green cabbage, so those are actually looking pretty good, except for that one that looks kind of funky. Anyway, so here's the original planting of kale, and that's leafing up nicely. Again, the flea beetles did a lot of initial damage, but there'll be more leaves to come that won't be half-eaten by flea beetles. And we'll have to worry about the cabbage moths soon. But the curly kale, this is, I believe this is a combination of either darky boar and winter boar. And I can't remember which one is which, but they're very similar. These are all looking really nice too. Hopefully the sun, the glare of the sun isn't too much and you can see them. Alright, so more cabbages under this row cover. I'm going to flip this up. I should probably take this off, but I have other things under here that still need row cover. But yeah, these are looking really, really nice. This is a variety golden something. I'm going to have to look up the name. I think these were leftover seeds that my friend Sylvia had given me. So they're starting to look really, really nice. And then down here, actually let me take this rock bag off. Oops. Struggling with the rock bag today. Sorry about that. Flip this up. We've got some really nice looking pak choys that need to be harvested. A bit of flea beetle damage, but that's okay. And then check these out. Kohlrabi. I just love growing these because they are just the weirdest looking vegetable. So we have some white ones there, and then over here we've got some purple. Aren't they beautiful? So those will be coming along. We could actually harvest these now, these white ones. That's a good size. It's probably, you know, bigger than golf, maybe tennis ball size. So, pretty. All right, throw that down. What else for brassicas? Oh yeah, the next batch of arugula is looking really nice. I can probably start harvesting this soon. It's looking a little better than the first one. Oh, there's still some flea beetle damage. Oh, the flea beetles have been awful this year. But I'm not seeing any on the protect net right now, so that tells me that the population has dropped. So this damage was done earlier. But it's looking really good. Yummy. Arugula. Okay. Let's see, I'm going to step over the arugula and look at the spinach. This spinach is starting to bolt, as you can see. So maybe able to harvest some of these other leaves here tomorrow. I'll probably do that. And then I think most of this is done. Yeah, that was a very short spinach season. You can see when it gets tight like that in the center, it's going to bolt. And then the leaves will get bitter. So there's a little bit of a story with the spinach. This is Space. It's a very common variety grown by market gardeners. I've grown it for years, never had a problem with it. And this year, the seed that I got from Johnny's had really, really bad germination. I'm talking like 20%. So I struggled to get even, you know, this much out of a couple of sowings. So I called Johnny's, explained the situation, and they were fabulous. They've sent me a new batch of seed from a different lot number. So I'm going to try just direct sowing, even though it's getting kind of late for spinach. I'm going to try this upcoming week, this next week, try sowing some new Space direct sow into the garden to see if the germination rate is any better. We'll see. Should be interesting. Oops, step over. Next to the spinach we have beets, and as you can see, I've got to get in here with the pollinator hoe and get this carpet weed out of here, this green carpet weed. One of the most annoying weeds in my garden. It's everywhere. That and purslane everywhere in my garden. So I've got to weed that out. That'll be this upcoming week's task. But the beets themselves are looking really good. I think this is the Early Wonder Tall Top variety, and as you can see, the leaves are already pretty large and nicely green. Beautiful leaves. So you can harvest the leaves for eating. It's grown mainly for the leaves, but the beets themselves are fine once they size up. Chard. Still dealing with, I have this pest that eats chard every year. Every year. Doesn't matter where I grow it. I'm thinking snail, maybe? I don't see any pests on the chard, so that's the frustrating thing. I do have to weed this. Again, more carpet weed and purslane. But like some of the leaves are pretty okay, and then you get the bigger leaves have holes in them. I don't understand. Alright. So that's the chard. And then the carrots, this is the Yaya early crop carrots, and they are looking pretty good. Pretty good. And then the second batch main crop carrots are starting to come up here. And the germination doesn't look too bad. There's some bare spots here. And I go over here to this. We have more here. This was a combination of navel, which I believe are here up front, and then Napoli, which is the back half of, or the back 2/3 of this second sowing. So these are the Napoli. I do have a third variety that I was going to get sown this week in this section here. I weeded it, didn't happen. Hopefully will happen this upcoming week. It's getting kind of late in the season, and as you can see, we've got a bit more weeding to catch up on. All right, final thing to look at, the lettuce. I was hoping to harvest some of this lettuce, the Salanova lettuce, this week, and I didn't. So I definitely need to do it this upcoming week. It's looking great though, it's showing no signs of bolting, which is great. I did harvest a few heads of lettuce, but all the lettuce is actually looking really, really good, despite that early heat. And then here's a few more newly planted lettuce heads. A little bit of Salanova from a tray that didn't germinate very well here, and then a few more head lettuce varieties here. So the trays that I've got in the greenhouse now of the various lettuces will go in this row all the way up at the other end, and we'll start filling this row in with lettuces and anything else that I feel like sowing. Greens and such, but mainly lettuces. Alright, so we just turn to this disaster over here. These are the last 3 rows of the garden. This is the perennial holding row of all the perennials that have either grown from seed or divided from other perennials. This whole row here. That is all supposed to be going into the pollinator garden. It's staying here for now because I'm only about a quarter of the way through redoing the pollinator garden. But there's some beautiful things in here. This is yarrow. I believe this is Colorado mix. I think. Be sure. All kinds of things in here. Some Russian sage. This is Helenium. I can't remember the variety name. Oop. Euringium. That already flowering. Here's some Sanguisorba. But as you notice, a ton of weeds. Bad weeds. Like I need to get down on my hands and knees with a scraper of weeds. Oh, and here's something. These are roses that were left by the previous homeowner. Apparently this rose came from Ireland, according to the story. I haven't figured out where to put it, but it's staying here for now. Well, I have to weed it, and it's in a pot. But they're pretty, and I'm not a rose person, but I will find a spot for this, I think. Just the sentimental value, I guess. Very pretty. Yeah, so let's see, let's take a walk a little bit up here, and you can see these are all alliums in amongst the weeds. My comfrey is out of control. I actually have to cut it back because it's going to start going to seed. So I'll cut that back this week. I believe this is Bee Balm, Jacob Klein. It's the red one. Yeah, struggling in this soil with no fertilizer. Some sort of Heliopsis. Can't remember the name, but it's going to flower. It's looking really happy where it is. Shasta daisies coming into flower. I'm going to have a perennial border in my vegetable garden. This is some Echinacea Paradiso tall mix. A few that survived. Let's see what else. I think more Heleniums. Some I grew from seed, some I believe I bought. Globe thistles. These are starting to bud up here. More heleniums, a lot of heleniums. I think this is more echinaceas. Some lavender. This is the lavender that's around the front stair. Liatris. I think this is purple. These might be the white ones. Look at the rhubarb. The rhubarb is just insane this year. Yep. Not sure what this is. I want to say it's some sort of Heliopsis, maybe. Guess we'll find out when it blooms. This I know is a goldenrod. Let me see if I can figure out the name here. Oh no, that's Helenium. Sorry, Helenium Mardi Gras. Why did I... Oh, this is the goldenrod. Here we go. This is the goldenrod. Thankfully, I kept tags for most of this. Hang on, let me see if I can... Here we go. So, this is the goldenrod. Oh, which one is that? Fireworks. There we go. Tiny little print, and I don't have my glasses on. And then some salvia. Which one is this? Whoop. Trying to figure out what variety this is. Yep, that variety. Alright, and then I've got some more yarrow. This is paprika that I know. And then this is gold something. Yep. I know there's a tag in here somewhere. There it is. Moonshine, there we go. Moonshine yarrow. All that's going to go into the perennial garden, the pollinator border, sometime. Okay, that is it for week 8 of This Week in the Garden series. All crammed into one day. At some point during this series, I will get this right, where I'm filming throughout the week and showing you cool things as I do them, and not trying to rush it all into one day because of all the other chaos going on in the other gardens. But maybe not. Maybe the whole series will end up being like this, but hopefully it's still somewhat informative. Yeah, I hope so. Anyway, let's wrap up week 8 and look forward to week 9. I can't believe it's been going to be 9 weeks already. Holy cow, the season is blowing by. Yeah, but thank you for joining me. I do appreciate that you're here, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care. Bye.